Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again, and I've got some good news about the Frenzy Hollow Palm Raider, in that I didn't end up swapping out of Frenzy because it just worked out well. It was pretty fun, and it ended up being really strong. I did say that I was quite likely going to go into Infernal Blow, but on that day I fine-tuned the build of the Frenzy variant with a bit of a passive rework, bit of staring at the tree, and just trying to figure things out, and ended up getting a lot more life, a lot more evasion, tankiness, while still maintaining a pretty decent amount of damage, and I didn't think it was worth pivoting to Infernal Blow, rather just save another variant of Hollow Palm for the future, while letting this one go all the way through. So in the end, Frenzy Melee Raider just was a really powerful build with the Hollow Palm variant, and I could easily recommend it. The only real downside is my build didn't have any explosions, so it was a bit less, I don't know, cool to watch. As you could see, there's nothing really like bloofing, and I didn't use an explosion chest, which you totally could if you want to take this build to more of a extreme fun playstyle, but I got used to having no explosions, and it really didn't bother me in the end, and I just had fun playing my character either way. It did take on all content. It's pretty fast, it's got really good movement speed, really good attack speed, and the full-blown dodge evasion defensive playstyle worked out pretty well for the current content. It wasn't the best. You're probably still better off having good, solid damage taking ability from armor, endurance charges, regen, all that sort of shit, but this actually held up pretty well against all the content out there at the moment, including the new bosses from the Delirium Simulacrum. You could basically face tank those once you've engaged with them, and then most of the other fights in the game, from the Conquerors and Cirrus, was all pretty smooth as well. You can see the first few waves of the Simulacrum just giving you a taste of what it's like. Basically, up until wave 14, 15, you don't take like a single point of damage. You're running around with your Ancestral Call, Melee Splash, and full-blown dodge evasion, just slapping everything down and basically never getting hit. It's pretty effective for early on clear. In these Simulacrum waves, did end up going all the way through the 20 waves, where the last few started to get a little bit tankier, but for the early waves, it's pretty damn smooth. And I was also running Sand Stance instead of Blood Stance for most of these waves, just so I could blind everything and guarantee that they have a lot lower of a chance to hit me. This, I believe, was wave 15, and I got both bosses and went in against Kosis in the little corner here. Didn't really know what his attacks were just yet, and he's got this fireball thing that he just keeps on barraging. I wasn't too aware that that would happen, so yeah, kind of face tanked, and it did not pay off. Other than that, went back in and then just face tanked him, and it was pretty fine. But it's just still a bit of a learning process as to what he's got and what he does. This is then wave 15 or 16 of another Simulacrum I did. This is the boss, the melee one. Basically, I don't think I ever got hit by this guy the fucking 8 times I've seen him on this character. It's just non-stop dodge, 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 which is pretty damn good for a defensive playstyle. I then, in this Simulacrum, wanted to show you the wave 20, which had 2 extra proj, sorry. So everything is firing 3 proges, and then it's also got crit and crit multi, and I did find Kosis on this one. The wave was fine. I then had to try and figure out how to do the Kosis, because his fireball attack was straight up one-shotting me from a distance, because I think those fireballs shotgun with the just extra proj mod. This is the wave 20 Kosis though. I just went in for the face tank, and it ended up working out after those couple of deaths. The DPS was definitely there, and that's with Ancestral Call and Melee Splash. However, once we actually want to get real DPS, I sub in Brutality and Melee Fizz, and the single target becomes quite potent. I didn't want to try that out on Kosis because I didn't want to have to swap out gems mid-fight like that, and just wanted to see if it was good enough to do it in the AoE setup, and it was, but you could have obviously blown him up quite a lot faster in the single target setup. that I'm showcasing to you here. It was pretty damn strong in the end for a melee frenzy build. I'd like to say, or I'd like to think Impale did a lot of the work, and Hollow Palm's overtunedness did the other half, because other than that, melee frenzy, who would have thought? It's kinda not a thing anyone would have expected anyone to be playing at any point of Path of Exile. And then this is a Awakener 5. I was a little bit worried about what he'd be like with the new Awakener mechanics. It's my first one of the league, but turns out it doesn't really matter if you just kill him pretty much instantly. And yeah, that's that. So I do want to show you guys what my character looks like nowadays, because I made a few little adjustments. So here is our character in all his glory. Now level 93, still hollow inside technique, still true. Ends up on 1081 dexterity, though it is still definitely possible to get more, but my belt didn't have percent attributes. I'd much rather that instead of dexterity. And my amulet that I ended up rolling, chaos spamming once again, was just a plain dexterity roll. And then I was basically looking for just percent dexterity and then anything else useful. We ended up getting life leech, mana leech, which doesn't really matter. The life leech I've already got plenty. The mana leech doesn't really do much except for make things a little bit smoother. I can unspec this 1 point, and then if I run out of mana flask, it kind of regens a little bit. It's really not too crucial to have mana leech. I'll leave that up to you to play around with it. Other than that, got some res and then mana reserved. But ideally, basically, you're just looking for a lot of dexterity on your amulet. This one, 14% dex with the catalysts. Is all we were really looking for, just chaos spamming till we get something, and then something that we can craft life onto as well. Fucking dogs, dude. Other than that, it's just, yeah, dexterity everywhere you can, and the gear hasn't really changed, I don't think, from the last video, just maybe the amulet. What I have done, however, is shift a bit of a respec. So instead of taking things like down here, instead of going all the way out for the Impale, we anointed the Impale and picked up the dexterity there. Got still this for the life leech and the life gain on hit, which comes in real handy on the Simulacrum event when there's a lot of enemies out there. So I can recommend Feast of Flesh, and that is just a jewel I rolled that had pretty much nothing, just Feast of Flesh, another 1% life per node. And then this jewel over here is just plain Ironbreaker with 5 dexterity, nothing too special about that, but 2 empty sockets. And then I wanted to make sure that I went up here, grabbed some more life nodes, got Master of Force, and a few more life nodes over here. And these are travel nodes that were dexterity, so I end up boosting our dexterity a bit. And in the end, I think it was a much cleaner sort of little version of the build, because we also got rid of this, which was kind of weak for nodes, I think. And I do recommend shifting this way if you're going to copy the build, because it ended up giving us a lot more life while maintaining our damage. Basically didn't really lose any damage at all, I don't think. And then got a good amount of dodge evasion. It's a lot higher once we got Onslaught up and Frenzies up. Had still minus 60 Chaos Res the entire time. That didn't actually end up being a problem on any content, but it obviously can be, so keep an eye out on that. If you're going to run around with minus 60 Chaos Res, you might get slapped down every so often. Other than that, filling out resist really wasn't that hard. You just get a bit of resist wherever you can. And then I also got a little bit on my jewels. So 10 all res there, and grabbed a blind on hit life resist jewel. But you could also do a brutal restraint over here, which is a timeless jewel, and get some pretty decent results. If you like, you could potentially get a decent result to make that more worthwhile once again, or one over here. But it should be a lot better over here if you get the right results for percent dexterity. So that's something to look into if you want to min-max as well. Not too much else to say here though, I don't think. I did actually want to mention, a lot of people do run Dancing Dervish. So if you kill things at the start of the map with Dancing Dervish, it goes out there, you get Rampage, and then you can keep attacking with your Frenzy and become Hollow Palm. So if you want Rampage at the start of every map, you can do that. Personally, I used it a few times, and you just slap things down and then weapon swap out of it, because once it ends, you do put your weapon back on and then it screws you over. I didn't really like it that much. I'm not a big fan of having to go with Rampage. It is pretty similar to the Delirium mechanic though, so you can do that. You can also grab a couple of high int wands and Repentance gloves, for example, to level some gems into, because you'll put them on with some high stat requirements from int elsewhere, and then take those items off. You'll only have 50 int, you won't be able to use those items, but you'll still have them there leveling gems, for example. So if you want to do that, feel free to. And as far as the Infernal Blow respec goes, if you want to do some of that on this character, it's still probably not a bad option, but Chieftain's probably going to be a lot more solid. But you take these 4 out, you'd take these 4 instead. You'd probably grab an Onslaught Flask here, potentially replace Lion's Roar with a Wise Oak, or you could fit in a Wise Oak over the Mana Flask, because Infernal Blow should attack a bit slower, and you can then rely on Mana Leech instead. And then the passive tree is pretty still similar. You don't really have to change much. Maybe you can take Ellie damage nodes instead, but be careful because the penetration off of that doesn't work for weapons. You'd probably run Fire Pen, and only half of your damage at that point is fire. So you want to, instead of running Pride, I would probably recommend grabbing Anger with the Watcher's Eye that converts half your damage into fire damage. Though it's quite likely that Chieftain's just going to be a bit nicer, and then you can do like Tectonic Slam, Infernal Blow, try it out and see what you like there. But I do think the Raider variant can probably become just about anything, but the strength of Impale is quite gonna be a hard carry in this sort of setup, so I'm not sure the Ellie variants are going to be as strong. Though I haven't really looked into it, that's just something I might be able to mention. And as far as our MTX setup is concerned, not sure if I've showed it off. Seeker Body Armor, Apocalypse, new Mystery Box, Helm, and Delirium Horns, if you want to copy something like that. Thank you very much for watching the character. Hope you enjoyed it. Hollow Palm, very strong. Can easily recommend. Should probably make another version of the Jewel this league. But yeah, hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.